Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're continuing to have a look at the leak list for the next major update, the last update of 2025, which usually comes out in early to mid-December, just before Christmas. This time we're having a look at the naval forces, and it looks like Gaijin is pulling out a lot of pretty fun stops. This whole update list looks really cool, and I'm looking forward to a lot of vehicles that are on it. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. The first vehicle on the list is the USS South Dakota. This is a vehicle that I've heard many people ask for over the years. It is an American battleship, part of the South Dakota-class fast battleships, and the vehicle itself is really cool. It's a Second World War battleship, meaning that it has a lot of very modern weaponry in terms of the battleships we have in the game. It has 9 16-inch guns. It also has a million 5-inch guns and 16 in total, and of course, being part of the Second World War, has 7 quad 40mm and a bunch of Chicago typewriters too on it as well. The vehicle itself was commissioned into service in 1942, but unfortunately was decommissioned in 1947, showing that it didn't really have a long service life. But what it ended up doing is its job in the Second World War, and that is its main part, being able to be used in many different areas, such as the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands, and of course the Second Naval Battle of Guadalcanal, which went a lot better than the first, which ended up happening for the Americans. Since this is a fast battleship, it should be quite fun to see how much it's able to move around the place. It has some massive engines and also at the same time has a pretty large belt of 310mm. This means that the vehicle should be able to take some punishment, but as always, we already have some big bangers in naval, so it'll probably just get annihilated. The Germans get an American vehicle, the Lütjens-class destroyer. This is a Charles F. Adams-class guided missile destroyer that the German Navy used. Basically, 3 of these destroyers were purchased from the US to provide air defense, so they will have access to the standard armament, the 2 127mm or 5-inch guns, and then also the Rheinmetall Mk20 RH202s. They did actually add some of them onto them, and then also the Tartar surface-to-air missiles, and also the Rams, which should turn up too. Depending on which one they decide to add, it should be slightly different. You have the Lütjens, then you have the Molders and the Rommel, so we'll have to see what kind of goes on with it. But overall, you're getting something that's very similar to what they added to the American tech tree very recently. For the Russians, we have a attack craft, the AK-225. Now, I might be wrong about this. I might have just found the wrong vehicle, but it seems to be right. It looks like a standard little tiny boat, which has access to a pretty wild weaponry on it. It has the 30mm AK-630M, which you already find in the game as one of those kind of 6-barreled crazy things, and then it has a dual 57mm on the front of it, the AK-725. So this vehicle only had a crew of 30 men, but it's a small vehicle with a lot of firepower that could annihilate stuff as it goes around. The next vehicle coming for Russia is the Stalingrad-class battlecruiser. This one is in War Thunder Mobile and also was leaked a long time ago when they mistakenly added a bunch of stuff to the dev server in 2021. Now it is 2025, showing how far ahead Gaijin plans a lot of these things. So the Stalingrad battlecruiser is another one of those which never got finished. They were partially built in the early 1950s, but ended up just not being finished. What ended up happening with the Stalingrad is it actually ended up as a target ship for testing anti-ship missiles on, because they kind of realized they didn't really need these things, and the way that naval combat was going, it was better to focus on frigates and missile platforms. This vehicle was supposed to have 3 triple-mounted 305mm or 12-inch guns, 6 twin 130s, 6 quadruple 45mm, and then 10 quadruple 25s on top of that. And since it was a battle cruiser and not a battleship, it only would have access to 180mm of an armored belt, and then also 240mm on the turret. So this vehicle will be a little bit more speedy, it'll have a decent armament, but not a ton of armor compared to a lot of its competition. The main thing though is it wasn't ever fully built, so that means that Gaijin will probably give it the Sovietsky-Soyuz treatment and make it overpowered as all hell, even if the Russian engineers could not build the thing. We also have a battleship that was built for Britain. This is the HMS Prince of Wales. This was part of the King George V class battleships and is one of those vehicles that was heavily involved when it comes to the war. The vehicle had 2 quadruple sets of 14-inch guns and also 1 twin set of 14 inches as well, meaning that it'll have quite a nice set of armament. The vehicle also was one of them that engaged the Bismarck, scoring 3 hits on the German battleship, meaning that the Bismarck had to retreat. The vehicle also has access to 8 twin-mounted 5.25-inch guns and also 4 octuple 40mm, alongside some other armaments on the vehicle too. Since it's a battleship, it has up to 370mm of armor on the belt and also a bunch more on the turrets, such as 324mm, and generally was seen as one of the gold standards of the Second World War, or at least the early area. This vehicle was completed and commissioned in 1941 and laid down just before the war. The general idea of the Prince of Wales was to strike fear into the enemies that it fought, and that's exactly what it did many times over. Looks like France is going to get another high-tier coastal premium, which is kind of weird. This one is the Corse, and it's specifically the F761. I believe it's the frigates that they had, the Escorteurs Rapides frigates, which are basically fast frigates, where they move around the place pretty quickly. The speed of these things was up to 50 kilometers an hour, which is quite fun, and also they had 6 57mm guns on them in dual mounts, and also some Oerlikons and some torpedoes too. The vehicle itself was a post-World War II vehicle, commissioned into service during the 1950s and serving into the 1970s. The vehicle itself should be incredibly fun for France, but once again, kinda sucks that it's a premium. We also have a Suffren cruiser for France once again. This was another treaty cruiser that was built for the French Navy in the 1920s, commissioned into service in early 1930. So you can imagine what's on this thing, and it's not too much. This one was an 8-inch gun cruiser though. It had 8 of them, which is pretty fun. 4 sets in dual mounts, so very similar to what we see from other vehicles. It also had a bunch of 75mm, 37mm, and also 13.2s as well. It was refit during the Second World War in 1943, and they basically added a ton of AA to it, so wouldn't be too surprising if that is what ended up happening with it. But since this was a treaty cruiser, and it was designed to be very light, to be able to kind of follow it in the Suffren class. Unfortunately, its belt is only 50mm, so this is going to be very similar to a lot of the British 8-inch heavy cruisers, which are heavy because of the guns, but light on armor. So it's going to die very quickly, but it's also going to be able to put out a decent amount of punch. That is all of the naval leaks that have come out for the next major update. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.